Hi there, it's Lori from Lollipop Paper and Ink. Thanks so much for joining me today, and welcome to my stamp studio, and also our first suite celebration. And we had the release of our new catalog this past week, a few days ago on Tuesday, and it's the January to June 2021 mini catalog. So my very favorite suite, bundle, paper, everything from this catalog is the Fine Art Floral Suite. So you can find that on page 32 to 34 of this catalog. And let me just show you the items that are included in with this bundle, in with this suite. And we're going to be using pretty much all of them during the suite celebration. So our first card is going to be dealing with just the regular basics of this. Now, of this suite. Here is the, this is called the Golden Garden Designer Specialty Acetate. And I think I've shown it before on one of my Facebook Lives, but this is how it comes. And it is gold on one side, silver on the other. Now there are two sheets of this of the DSP, this gorgeous DSP, Fine Art Floral DSP, that this just completely covers, and it picks up the design beautifully. So you just have to move it around a little bit until you find the design and match it up. And that's what I did here, and that's what we're going to do on our first card. So this has I think it has 6 sheets. I'm not positive now. I should have looked on that. Oh, so it just has 3 sheets, one of each design. So it's this design. It's another one that I showed that coordinates with one of the other patterns on the DSP. And so we're going to be using this one for right now. We'll probably use one of the other ones later on in the celebration. Okay, so that's for today. Let's get started. We have, this is a really simple card to put together. And our next card up after this, we'll be doing some work with this beautiful painted texture 3D embossing folder, and also it's not part of this suite, but blending brushes, and those are a phenomenal new product that we're offering. So as far as the suite goes, you can purchase the bundle by itself and all the individual items that are part of the suite. Or Stampin' Up! Has done all the work for you and has laid it out so that they have a suite collection price. And I call this the I Want It All bundle. I Want It All price. And if you did purchase that suite collection, you would get everything that you see here on the page. Also, during sale-a-bration, you would earn 2 level 1 rewards, $50 rewards, or 1 level 2 rewards for the $100 that you're spending. So you would be able to choose from items from the sale-a-bration book, either 1 level 1 or 2 level 1s or 1 level 2. Okay, so let's get busy with this first card in our celebration. I cut our bases down and our layers down so you can see them. I will have the dimensions on each card listed below. I also have all the product supply for all 3 of these projects listed below also. It's pretty much the entire suite, where I did try to use one of each. Okay, so I'm going to do some stamping here. Now this is from the Art Gallery bundle. Has 2-step stamping and beautiful little sentiment tags. And in the dies that come with it, these dies crop out the actual sentiment so beautifully, whether it's a small one or a large one. For this one, I picked the Happy Birthday, and that's how I got it right out of that one there. Put that there so I don't lose it. This also has a big, beautiful die that says "Just Want to Say," and honestly I haven't used it yet, but I've seen such beautiful things with it. So you would just crop this out on cardstock and add one of these, just want to say congratulations, thank you, miss you, sorry, anything. So for this project, we're going to be using this floral image right here. And I'm going to just use my my mini grid paper, because with the photopolymer we have to make sure that we have some kind of padding, otherwise you don't get a good image. Now I could have used my Stamparatus, which I do use when I'm working with these images, because I want to make sure that I get a good image on there. So and this just offers me the best. It lets me have the cushion that I need, and then also scrap paper behind it that I definitely need. All right, so I'm just going to stamp this on and off both corners here, just that way. And this is just tone on tone. It's Flirty Flamingo cardstock and Flirty Flamingo ink. Okay, and that's it. All right, now before I put it on my card base, I want to make sure that I have, at least I have this on, that I have the design on exactly where it's going to match up. And it might be a little off, and that's fine. You still get the whole idea of of the design behind it and how pretty it is. What we can do first is adhere these to the DSP, and normally I would use those little. I found that the glue dots from the paper pumpkin kits are just a little bit smaller, so I would use that. But it's totally okay if you just want to use the regular mini glue dots. And what I would do is just find a place where it would be not so suspicious of that you could see it. And you could see the opposite side here has a beautiful gold, a beautiful silver design on it, which is perfect for other papers, but it doesn't fit over the DSP, but it certainly works just fine. So I'm just going to add a little where I can see that there's a solid print, where there's solid color there. So, and if I try to do corners, but if I can't, like in this case, there's not much there, but that will be fine, and it won't be, it will not be noticeable at all. Okay, so let's just get one more on the corner here. I'll go up a little bit, and then we're going to place this over here, and then just fit it right on top, and it should look perfect. Okay, so you can't see it, and it's not going anywhere. All right, so now I want to put this on, adhere this to my base first, because I do want that to overlap a little bit. So let's get this on and start up my stamp and seal. Which depends on the day if it wants to cooperate with me. But once I get it on, I'm good. Okay, I just centered that right on top. And then this one, I'm going to do the same, put some adhesive on the back pieces. And put that right on top. And this is cut at 5.5. It's 1.5 by 5.5. So I'm going to move it up a little so I can get to see both designs. There you go. Just a little bit of an accent piece. You don't have to have the whole thing covered. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just take a little piece of my. This was another item from the suite, and it is called the Fine Art ribbon. And it has a little bit of a gold little tint to it, so it matches perfectly with this. And I found that this doesn't take too well when I try to use the stamp and seal on it, so I'm just going to add a few glue dots, and then we can get that to sit down. And it does fray. So let's see, did I get that on there? Yeah. So if you like, there are some projects where I do like the fraying, but for this one I think I'll just keep it nice and flat. And we're just going to add this as another little accent piece on the bottom. There we go. And you can see here, if I wanted to, I could fray it a little bit. If I'm going to do one side, I might as well do them both. Okay. And let's make sure it's straight. I think I can move it up a little bit. Okay. All right, and then we're just going to take our sentiment that I already stamped and cropped out with the die, and that was this happy birthday stamp, which is a sentiment, which is right there, front and center. And I did, I'll show you when I showcase these just in pictures of the other projects that I did with this set and with that paper. And I had to order more because it was just so gorgeous. And I just loved the way it just laid right over. So I just used a little bit of the, this looks like it's the poppy ink instead of the Flirty Flamingo, because you can see that there are both in there in the DSP. Okay, this is our first project, my next one up has to do with the folder, the embossing folder, blending brushes, and we're going to try to get some color onto the embossed image. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, we're back with our second project, and this time we are showcasing the painted texture 3D embossing folder. And I wanted to show you how I tinted the color here using one of the new blending brushes. And I wanted to show you also that this was done by inking up the inside of the folder, but it looks very similar to one of the DSPs that are in the Fine Art Floral, one of the sheets that are in here. But I just wanted to show you the difference, and I pulled a little strip out to show you the difference, that this really looks nicer because you can see the raised edges are still white. Where in this case, although it looks it, you really have to touch it to realize that it's not real. But you don't see the white you don't see the white on top of the tinted cardstock. So that's why I did it that way. Both are beautiful. That's a lot easier just to do it that way, but I just wanted to show you just a little technique with this. So our blending brushes, you'll see a video on those that are part of the kickoff. But these blending brushes are brand new to the catalog. It's $12 for 3. They are very flexible, but I recommend you using your finger because you have more control when you're doing it if you want to make it lighter or darker. You get 3 to the pack, so I'm trying to keep mine in color families so I don't have to wash it after each time, because you need to let it dry for a few days. You can't, because there's just like a gazillion fibers here, and you have to be able to make sure that it's completely dry, otherwise it just won't work. So that's why I'm trying to keep them in color families. And so for this one, I'm going to use a little bit different color than the pool party. I'm going to use our Rococo Rose and some Petal Pink, and that's how we'll do our flower also. So just using the Petal Pink, the Rococo Rose, and this is my painted texture folder. And what I do is I add it to the top part if I want, because I want the ridges to be up. So all I'm going to do is just add a little bit, and like I said, I'm using as much pressure as I want here, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm not going crazy you don't want to have too much, so you do want to make sure that it's even. And that's also true when you're just using a design as a background, or you're using it as a stencil for your design, for your layer. So the cardstock that I'm using is not, it's not that large, but I covered the whole part anyway. So I'm just gonna give it a little brush. You can see there's not much coming off, so it does stain it, but it doesn't, it's not going to affect the next one. And I always just make sure I give it a good clean after, just in case I pick it up next time and I don't, and I forget to wipe it down, just to check. Okay, so I'm gonna just put this in here, like so. Put it down, and I'm going to run it through the embossing machine. The Big Boss, I call him now, because I keep saying Big Shot, and that's not great. Okay, so for embossing, we don't use our small plates. We just use a number 1. We put our, let me move this over a little for you. Our number 1, we put the folder and the paper in there, and then just use the embossing plate and run that through. Okay, and then you can see it came out with just a nice tint to it. It's not too much, it's not too little, and when you put it up on top of the Rococo Rose, it's going to be beautiful. So so that's all it takes for that. And I use this embossing folder for so many other things, but I'm going to leave this out. But I love that effect that it came with when I tinted the inside of it. So I'm going to leave this out because we're going to want to die cut our, get rid of that, our flower. So let's just stamp that. I'm going to use the Stamparatus. I usually do use it when I'm dealing with 2-step stamping. It's a guarantee that I can't mess it up, because there are no other guarantees that I can count on. So if I don't have a good image, if I don't have a flat surface, and if I'm in a hurry, then this just solves that problem. So let me get my images out, and we're going to use the solid image as with the petal pink. So I'm just going to put that right in the middle there, in case it does lift up, which the photopolymer does often. I'm going to butt this one right up into the corner there, so if it does move, I know where to place it next time. And try to keep your magnets away from each other. They don't like each other. Okay, so I'm just going to do that here. And no matter how many times I've used that, which I've used it a lot, it still picks up on me. All right, when I'm using the Stamparatus, I always make sure I have something behind it to give it a better level surface. Okay. And there we go. And for the more intricate image of the inside, I'm going to put the Rococo Rose on that, so that we have a nice balance of color. Just lay that right on top. Okay, we're done with those. Now, let's just crop this out with one of the dies. The outline of the floral die, I have it right here. And this is pretty easy. Some of them are a little hard to figure out which way goes which way, but this one is really easy to pop it right on there. Okay, so now we're just going to be doing some layering. That's it. And I have the card, and like before, I'll have the measurements for each of these cards in the description below for you. And I'm going to put this one on first. Make sure I'm on the right one. Yep. Okay, it's a little bit of a fancy fold. And let's get this on here. This Stamp and Seal is very, very sticky, so I don't usually use a lot of it on each layer, but when it's an embossed layer, I do, because you know, it has so many lifted areas. I want to make sure I got them all. Alrighty, this is just going to go right on top. Okay. And you could open this either way. If you wanted to have it going this way, you can have your, I think my first one did that, and you could do it, which is how I like to do it, this way. And then I'm just going to stamp on here. And I'll stamp in the Rococo Rose again. Now this, when I put them on my blocks, when I'm not actually ready to stamp right away, I always put them on crooked, like super crooked, so that I know, it reminds me to just take a minute and put it on a piece of graph paper or put it on my mat just to make sure that I'm straight. So that just makes, it's just a little self check for me. And then I'm just gonna put this right in the middle. And I love the simple font that's included in this. It's very pleasing to the eye. Okay, and then we are good with that. I can put a few, I'll pop this up with a few dimensionals. Okay, and now I'm going to put a few little, these are from the Artistry Blooms adhesive backed gems. They're gems? Sequins. As long as they're adhesive backed, I'm good with it. I just not very good with it if it has to have different glue added to it. So let's see, which ones do I like? I think I like this one because it picks up a little bit of both the petal pink and the Rococo. And then I'll just take two little guys and put them on either side here. And we have our second project, using our new blending brushes, using our new embossing folder, the painted texture embossing folder, and the art gallery bundle. Okay, so next up, we're going to be doing another project that showcases the gold gilded leafing that is just makes you want to just keep going. So just hang with me. I'll be right back with our last project. Okay, so for our third project in our Fine Art Floral Suite celebration, we're going to do a project that is pretty simple, but it has the added accent of the gold gilded leafing that is part of that suite also. And I'll show you how we can add that on to the project. Okay, so I'm going to be using my Stamparatus again because this is I don't have a second chance. I already cut out my rectangle, this layer from the Stitch So Sweetly dies So I don't want to mess up on that. I want to make sure that I get it right the first time. So let me move this over here. And I'm going to, this time, make sure, I don't like butting, if it's a small piece, I don't put that into the corner. So I always go over to this last solid line here. And I could even go into this quarter of the grid paper. It's just so you know when you go back into it, when you're doing the second step, you just know where it was beforehand. And if you had the grid paper, which I do use for other things, you could just make a little pencil mark there, if that would make it easier for you also. So, okay, so I'm going to just stamp a simple flower here first. And we're going to be using Bumblebee ink, So Saffron ink, and Pear Pizzazz. I think I changed to Old Olive. So you see how this is lifting, which is a pain. But as long as I know I'm one quadrant down and I'm right to that solid line, I should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to use a little Bumblebee ink to get the solid image. Oh, actually, changed my mind. I'm using the So Saffron for the solid image. I always like the lighter image to be on the bottom. It makes the top part stand out a little bit more. Okay. That's good. Put this baby right back where it was. And now we can get out the Bumblebee and make sure that we have a good flat surface on that too. So just going to pop this right here in the center. It's going to be a little off, so that's fine too. That's how it was designed. Okay, go back there. Okay, so I'm good with my Stamparatus now. I'm going to do the leaf, I'm going to do the leaf image with the just with my clear block, because I'm pretty sure I can manage this without messing it up. Just make sure it's on the paper. This is Old Olive. Okay, so that part is done. The stamping is done. And the reason I chose this color is I chose one of the prints from the Fine Art Floral DSP, and I like this little one over here. So this is Bumblebee, and this so this kind of tells me my little chart of what coordinates with what. So, all right, so now we bring out the fun stuff. This is the gold leafing. Now, this is how it comes. It's very airy and very messy. These things just fly all over the place. So that's why I keep it, contained in that box there until I need it. And so what we're going to need is, it's all over the place. Just make sure you don't have a fan going on in your room at the time, or you'll lose it all. So this is just how I keep it. In this tray here, it's a little easier for me to maneuver, but I just want to show you what it does look like. This is the heat and stick powder, which I've emptied into here, which I'm waiting for a new jar to come because I'm using it so much I need another one. And so that's how that comes. And I just put it in here just to keep it all nice and tight and tidy, actually. So we're going to need Versamark ink because we want to make the image that we're going to use sticky. So I do need the inside image that I used, the Bumblebee, and I just want to make sure that I clean that off nice so we don't have any ink on that. So I'm just using my chamois to clean that off camera. And I'm going to take this block back and make sure my hands are clean. Okay, So we're going to ink this up with Versamark, and this is the sticky part. That's what was going to get the heat and stick powder is going to go on top of this, and then the Gilded Leafing goes over that. All right, so we're just going to take a shot and put this right over it, and that's where I want my gold to land. If I wanted to just use this one little piece here, I could have done that just for a little bit of, I think that would look really pretty, a little bit of gold. Okay, so while it's wet, now we just go over to our heat and stick powder, just like your heat embossing, and just cover it. You want it to be nice and frosty. Okay, that's that. Now, while I'm drying it with my heat tool, I want to make sure these flakes are nowhere to be seen, because then they will be all over the studio. Okay, so I'm going to take my heat tool, and it's just going to be for a few seconds. I'm not heating it up as much as I would with embossing, but I just want to make sure it gets to the sticky stage. And when you see that it's turning color like that, see how fast that was? So that's good. You don't want to get it too dry, because then it will pass the sticky stage. All right, so now I'm just going to take out my flakes, and this we'll use for after. Sometimes we may use it, sometimes we might not. And I'm just going to press it in here. So put them all in the one little pile. You're not wasting them, because they're all going to be used either on this one. Whatever doesn't stick here stays, and it goes right back into my next project. And then you just use your fingers to get all the heavy stuff off. And I don't like a lot, so I can even use my fingernail and take off more than what's on there. And then final touch, I take my sponge, and that's how I really get off the heavy pieces. Right there. Okay, look how pretty that is, and I like that with the bumblebee and the So Saffron. I think that looks really cool together. Okay, that's it. See how nice and shiny that is? Beautiful. Okay, so let me get rid of this, and we can then put our card together. And gather up all your flakes for next time. Okay. So what I did was I used a bumblebee layer on top of the Whisper White card base, and it's just going to be layered on from there. So let me just get that on here. Okay, now this is going to go right on top. Look how pretty that is. Ooh. Nice. All right, and then I wasn't sure what color I wanted to put the sentiment in. I wanted to see what this looked like first. So let's see how that looks on here. You can put it straight, you can put it a little askew. Let's try that. Just making sure my two corners here match up. And there we go. So I have one of the little sentiments from the stamp set, the Art Gallery bundle. This one is thank you. And let's just make sure that it's on straight here. I did cut a little tad, crop a little tad first. So yeah, just make sure that that is straight. Okay, so I think I will use the bumblebee. I think I like the way that looks. Okay, oh, picked up a little bit. Again, I use my grid paper now for all sorts of things, and it works out really well for stamping. Instead of using the piercing mat, I can just use this because it's always here, and it's always good to have scrap right there for you, waiting to go. All right, so let's put this up with a few little dimensionals, and we'll be ready to go. Actually, what I think I could do, what I did not bring over, is I think I'll add some of the Bumblebee in color dots, just to spruce it up a little bit. And I did a video, separate video on just a technique video on this gold gilded leafing. And where do I want that? I think up here. And in there I gave some other ideas too of how to use it. If you don't want to use the Versamark ink, you could just use regular Tombow liquid glue. You could use glue dots and then just have them exposed, and then just dab the glue dots into the gold. And I also did a little project with tear and tape, and I had the gold leafing make a frame for that. So check those out, and it's all part of this suite, and we're celebrating the Fine Art Floral Suite today with this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to add a little doodad to that as soon as I'm off, and then I can have all of these will be in a picture photo format, so you can see it as a product showcase. So I hope you enjoyed our Fine Art Floral Suite celebration, and next celebration I do will be on the Dandy Garden Suite, so stay tuned for that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just let me know. If you need to purchase any of these products, then you can just let me know. You can shop in my store. Everything is there. As far as I know right now, everything is still available. So I hope that you'll shop with me. All right, thanks so much for joining me. Take care.